Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, we discuss my thoughts on episode 8 of the anime series Koi wa Ameagari no Yoni, or Love is Like After the Rain. And this episode was just so calm and soothing a watch, very relaxing and warm-hearted all the way through. And it's very much like love is in the air in a sense, as it relates to some of Tachibana's friends and co-workers. You know, Nishida having an interest in her school sort of acquaintance Yoshizawa and cutting his hair, cutting his bangs because he's terminally scared out of his mind that Kanto's going to fire him because he has his bangs too long. You know, you always got to sort of tie up your hair when you're in the food service industry, that kind of work. And it's just hilarious that motivates him to sort of space out. And then, of course, Nishida takes up the opportunity to say, well, I am studying to be a hairdresser, a stylist. I could trim it for you, you know, that kind of thing. And I love how timid she is, regarding her interest in him. We already know she has an interest. She's already boldly said that to Tachibana in a previous episode that she kind of likes him. And so I love the timid nature surrounding that and the uncertainty there. And then her being given these words of encouragement by Tachibana herself, and the subsequent scene where she is cutting, Yoshizawa's hair, and they're sort of laughing over things he finds interesting, things he likes, things that just happen to be yellow. And it's funny that she's blonde, So it was really sweet and adorable that. And similarly so with Haruka, she is still sort of pining over and mulling over whatever it is that, is sort of unattainable to her as far as where Tachibana's mindset is about running, about the track and all that kind of stuff. And there's still so much of that Haruka, for her own part, can't necessarily make sense of. There's only so much of that you'd need to experience yourself to really wrap your mind around. And so she doesn't quite know what to think of where Tachibana necessarily is, where their friendship is, even still. And this was something that I had, spoke about, especially in the comments back and forth with you guys, in the episode after Haruka had sort of, extended that olive branch anew to Tachibana and gotten her that little sort of keychain and everything like that, that wish-granting keychain, the special prize that it was. I had said that I was still uncertain as to whether or not an amends had actually been forged between them at that point. With Tachibana's checking out the book of photography about track runners and things like that, I was still considering it that it could potentially yet be a hurdle for her to grow beyond. And so I was kind of, similarly to how Haruka is in this episode, I was still kind of mulling over, have they reforged their friendship or not? I wasn't sure. And I really liked the conversation between she and the ex-captain of the soccer team, who is someone else who had to sort of forfeit that for the sake of an injury, as well as exams and things like that. And at first she's very abrasive to him, but with his kind, supportive words, very sort of pragmatically looking at the scenario, being someone who can identify with what Tachibana's probably gone through with an injury that has gotten in the way of her passion. I mean, he has to kind of lay it out for Haruka that it's probably something she still really has a desire for, and it's just a shame that she can't reach out to that anymore. She can't pursue it anymore, so it's kind of hard for her, And I love how he says, but, a friend like you who is so caring and concerned for her well-being, who cares about her so much, that's got to be something that gets her through it, that lights up her life and answers to that and such. And I love it by the end, because when the festival is unfolding, you have Kondo going all through the restaurant, putting up the posters for the festival. And at that point I was thinking, oh, is this going to be a thing where she tries to build up the courage, Tachibana that is to say, to ask Kondo, and this is going to be like their second pseudo date, or third technically, and again, they surprised me where they did not focus on the zit and her having, fears going exponentially building out of that, They also did not have it be a thing where, that festival was all about them going together on a date or something like that. She ended up reaching out to Haruka, and she herself, Tachibana herself in that moment was a little bit reserved and a little uncertain about that friendship between them. Is it right? would it be right to invite her to the festival? Best of friends going together. And I love that by the end they did. She reached out to Haruka and they both went. And the last fleeting shot you see of Haruka being taken off screen, led by hand by Tachibana as they're going into the festival grounds, is her sudden smile. And it's just the most beautiful thing, because this is what I hoped for between these characters, in the friendship that we've called back on and seen how it had become disparaged, how it had become divisive and broken apart because of her injury, because of how that was holding her back, and the reservations she herself was experiencing, and looking upon Haruka as someone who can still pursue the running and all that kind of stuff. It would be very hard for her to make amends that easily. It's something that she would have to work out to a point. And now it is worked out. And now they're going and having fun together as the best of friends once again. And it just warmed my ever-loving heart. Very similarly, as I say, to Nishida's being there to trim Yoshizawa's hair, and his being very grateful about that. And then the idea of that particular pimple and how it relates to the story, the work of fiction, and Tachibana's homework, and how Kondo gets involved in that. And there is a moment where I've spoken about, that it's been testing my patience in previous episodes for Kondo to be so self-demeaning, so defeatist about, what he can accomplish and anything more that he has to give, his lack of youthfulness because of how old he is. So much of his life, as I've spoken about before, he considers said and done with. There's nothing more he can contribute actively, especially to a beautiful young woman like Tachibana, who has such, this high appreciation of him and infatuation with him. And, he kind of equates that, relating back to the pimple. There's a line, a selection in the story that relates to the protagonist having a pimple and reflecting upon that. And this casts Kondo's own reflection upon it in looking at Tachibana and seeing that she, to him, it is the embodiment of her youth, something long since passed within his grasp for himself. And I love by the end, as he's singing the praises of Yoshizawa's having a nice haircut and getting his bangs trimmed and everything. Now I don't have to fire you, buddy, that kind of stuff. We see him with a fresh pimple on his own cheek. And it's like the other leg drops of satisfaction for me, and I think for him as well. I think for Kondo as well, because here he's been proven wrong. He has a pimple. It is the significance that he has, placed upon it is that capturing of nostalgia and youth and whatever he feels is unattainable to him or inaccessible to him in ever approaching Tachibana, as embodied by her having a pimple. It just extends her that much further out of his grasp in his mentality as far as he's concerned. But then with his own getting a pimple of his own, it's that much sweeter in the end, because he's able to be more fun-loving and happy. And I think it is, while it is a very minuscule one, I think it is a point of hope for him, a point of realization that, okay, there are certain things that I've been self-defeatist about. I've held myself back in pursuing or conceiving myself capable because of how old I am, because of how old I consider myself to be. And here we have a literal physical embodiment of youth. And it's a part of me. And how it relates back to Tachibana's having had one, how it relates back to the story they mutually, share an interest in and whatever like that. I mean, this was just a pitch perfect episode. I began smiling early into it, and I wore my smile all the way to the end credits. Again, the melodic scoring of the episode, it warmed my heart so much. It was so relaxing and calming and joyous in all of the characterization, the way they were moving back and forth and such like that. And as I related back to the ex-soccer team captain guy, I had begun to wonder, is there potentially something more than just his guidance, his kind words, his words of support to Haruka? Will that become something that she might pursue? You know, are they setting up a younger man that has something very closely related that happened to him that he experienced as Tachibana, and eventually this will become aware to her and she'll set her sights on him rather than Kondo? At this point, I feel like it would be just a savage blow to Kondo's ego if suddenly Tachibana, I think he would be placating. I think he would sort of, you know, reserve himself and be like, that's good. You know, youth should go after and pursue youth and the youth of romance and all that kind of stuff. But I almost am fearful that it would just kill him at this point if suddenly Tachibana's sights were laid elsewhere. But that remains to be seen. All told, I loved this episode. It was so warm-hearted and again, soothing and relaxing and calming and all those you know, terms. And so I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of it, if you've seen it as well. Episode 8 of恋は雨上がりのように. If you enjoyed it as much as I did, if you found it as soothing and relaxing as I did, love it or hate it, anything goes in the comments below. Again, as I always say, I would be very much surprised if you didn't enjoy the episode or the characterization or all of the things that unfolded the way they did. But I'm open to hear it if you didn't have a taste for it. And so yeah, otherwise it'll be pretty much it for me on this one. This video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.